Hi guys, welcome. I feel so welcomed.
You,
I
you,
welcomed myself to your show.
Yeah,
you're welcome. You're welcome to feel welcome, buddy.
Yeah,
you
awesome.
are the de facto Alec Baldwin of the Jack Ryan series.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you feel about that, Mark.
Um, I like the Alec Baldwin depiction of Jack Ryan. I think um he's a little too like Bruce Wayne for me, if that makes sense. Like he's just
He
I just
specifically Keaton Bruce Wayne. Like he has like a detached
I
energy.
just also young Baldwin is like a really handsome guy, and I just never necessarily assumed that Jack Ryan was like a handsome guy. You know what I mean? Like he's like an academic, right? He's like sort of a nerdy financial advisor.
Right, he's an
Mhm.
analyst.
So it's like, it's like handsome Alec Baldwin. I was like, okay, all right, everybody calm down.
I enjoy Baldwin in this a lot because I love movies where it's the wussy guy
Yeah.
and then he earns his stripes with the macho guys because they're
Yes.
like, "You're all right, wussy guy," because like
Yep.
you anteed up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do like that Baldwin. He's got a different energy than like specifically the ones I compared to really is kind of Harrison Ford because it's really interesting where I was reading in the trivia and they wanted Harrison Ford originally for Jack Ryan,
Right.
but he turned it down. So they went to Baldwin, and then the movie's a big hit. And then Baldwin says, I want more money, like a lot more money for Patriot Games. And the people at Paramount said, well, we could get Harrison Ford for that money. So instead, they just said, fuck it, we'll just get Harrison
Yeah.
Ford and pay that amount. I didn't see The Hunt for Red October until 2020, and I'll always remember this because it was I saw it was a critics classic screening at Elk Grove, and I was there with John, and we were watching it, and you kind of knew that the COVID shit was going to hit the fan. And then like we watched the movie, and then right after the movie was over, somebody was like, Tom Hanks has COVID and the NBA stopped. And I'm like, oh, it's all over.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna text Mark and see Bloodshot tomorrow night, and then that's
we
the end
sure
of the
did see
road.
Bloodshot the next day. It was great.
Can
Yeah.
I just clarify what's everybody's Tom Clancy reference points? Because I've never read a Tom Clancy book. I've seen all these movies before,
Yeah.
but I've never read a Clancy. I don't have a lot of background knowledge in terms of the sort of canonical textual Jack Ryan. Does anybody have like more experience than that?
I've read a bunch. I've read The Hunt for Red October, the book. I've read probably six or seven of the other ones.
I my point of reference for Tom Clancy are the movies, the Rainbow Six video game, and the fact
Yes.
that in the early 90s, if you were a 90s kid and you went to the public pool, everyone's dad was reading a Tom Clancy hardcover while they were waiting for their kids to come back from swimming.
Can I just start by saying this movie is classy as fuck. This movie
It
is
sure is.
so it's got that great old fashioned thing, which I hate when we get super like nostalgic about things like this, but like every minute of the film has some kind of compelling drama to it that's different. And the way the film is constructed, just from a narrative sense, I remember getting to the last like 20 to 25 minutes of the film, and when all the dominoes started to fall, remembering like, oh, that's right, somebody sabotaged the Red October, we have to get to that. Oh, that's right, there's Russians that are chasing them. Oh, that's right, there's this. Oh, that's right, there's that. Like, it's compelling in the way that it's constructed, in a way that movies like just don't have to be anymore. We've just sort of forgiven them for not being that. And again, I hate to go on that whole like, oh, movies were better back in the day, but like this one is just such a strong example of like what a great action director like McTiernan, who cares about character, cares about narrative, can do with a great concept like this, where it's a movie about two, cowboys who have to trust each other, but they can't see each other. It's just such a compelling story. I just love it so much.
And I think it's especially impressive because the movie works as like a political thriller, it works as a spy movie, and it works as a submarine movie. It's like kind of amazing how it blends in all of these various subgenres that ordinarily wouldn't necessarily be the cleanest fits,
Right.
but like they all work perfectly together. And also this is I think one of the best Sean Connery performances, because he so like blends into the character, which is, and I love Connery, but like often he's Sean Connery first, then the character he's playing. And his repartee with Sam Neill is great. And Sam Neill's got my favorite bit of the movie where he's talking about his fantasy about Montana. And it's so interesting because he's just like, I want to marry a big round woman and have rabbits and have her cook the rabbits for me. And I want to drive a pickup truck and everything like that. And it's just like, and he's like, and in the winter, I want to move to Arizona and have like another wife. And like, do you need papers to drive between states and stuff? And it's such a cool, like, request. It's like just so off kilter for what they're doing, and it kind of also perfectly encapsulates that, you know, they're soldiers, they're men of their country, but they're not extremists, and that's why they're doing this. Like, they're human beings.
So much of that, I think, is the directing. So much of that, I think, is how often in this movie McTiernan is holding close on actors' faces as they make decisions. There's like 6 or 7 shots in this movie that are long takes of a character just sort of going through it and just kind of being like, they hear something and it's like, and they kind of do this, and they sort of look around, and then they come to a conclusion. Like Sam Neill has one, Connery's got like 5, Scott Glenn's got one, Baldwin's got a bunch. Like there's so many shots that are those long contemplative takes that allow the actors to just add nuance and add layers to the character. And it's so good. Like it's so good.
I really liked that. What kind of stuck out to me on this rewatch was how like understated Connery is, like really like being intentionally and purposefully silent, right? When like people address him. And I really like that because it just because it plays into like, this is the calculating submarine commander, right? This is the guy. He's not like this sharp, like fast talking guy, right? He's a quiet, like he's a fisherman's kid, right? Like there's something very simple and humble about that. Like, I don't have anything to say, but I just wanted to mention what a murderer's row of actors there are in this movie. I don't even know what else to say about it except for the fact that it's a murderer's row. It is crazy. Like just one of the deepest benches I've ever seen on screen. So that's all I had for that one.
I also like in certain parts that they sort of cast the movie so well to type, where, you know, it cuts through a lot of the characterization that might need to happen if it was an actor that kind of is more, I guess, diverse in their choices. But when you see like Joss Ackland or like Scott Glenn or Tim Curry, you know immediately what type they're playing. And it's in a movie as complex as this, with so many characters and moving parts, that's really good. One thing I want to ask you, I'll put the question to you, Mark, is what do you think of the device that they do to kind of you know, they introduce that the characters are speaking in Russian, and then they do the zoom in, and then they start speaking in English, and it's like, oh, you don't have to worry. It's like, we know. You don't have to worry about this.
I love it, and I kind of wish they did that in K-19, The Widowmaker, because in that submarine movie, you have to struggle with Harrison Ford trying to be Russian for the entire movie. And so I just think it's a really elegant, it's just like such an elegant solution to like, you know, Sean Connery like fumbling over Russian the entire time. And I love it. I think it's a great device.
And I read that they chose to switch on the word Armageddon because it's the same in both languages.
Do you guys like submarine movies in general?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have to say that there's some, I don't know, man, because I'm not like like, for instance, no one in my family is like in the Navy or in the military or anything like that. But then reading Clancy's description of like submarine warfare and naval warfare, I just found it so engrossing that I would go, this is too much information, but I would go back to the books and just read like the submarine warfare parts because I thought that they were so fascinating. I don't know if anyone
because
else
it's like math, you know, it's like tactics and logic. It's not like the aggression of like, like war, like, battlefield kind of
Right.
happenstance. It's more like angles and math and logic and gamesmanship and all that
And
stuff.
like, no, but it's also like hide and go seek with math
Yeah.
because you can't like see anything. And you're like, well,
Yeah.
this guy should be over here because of like whatever he last was and like how whatever degrees. And they're saying all these numbers. And I'm like, how do you fight this way? Like, how do you,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
Well,
that's
just
what's so
like
much, that's what is so great about the kind of drama, again, that sort of central drama of the film is this guy cannot see me. He has I don't know how much he knows about my movements right now. And
mhm.
if we get lucky, and Connery says this at the beginning of the film, he's like, look, if we get a cowboy, we're fucked. But if we get somebody who's smart and we get somebody who can genuinely understand what we're trying to do, then we have a chance. And that's what makes it so, the moment where Scott Glenn and Baldwin and everybody, they board the Red October and they're on the ship and they're finally there together. It's like, I was like sitting there watching, like, this is like blowing my mind. I didn't even realize
Yeah.
how
So
much I
weird.
wanted this to happen.
I also like that the quote unquote more cowboyish characters in this movie are like proven to be just as smart as Jack Ryan,
Right.
and like they do it in like really clever ways where it's just it's like maybe you would expect like Scott Glenn's character to be kind of more of an alpha because he's a submarine captain and like it's my way or the highway, kind of like a Gene Hackman and Crimson Tide. But in this, he's just like, no, he'll even though he doesn't like really get what Baldwin's getting at or necessarily agree. He's just like, no, I'm very smart and like I see where you're going and like let me hear you out and everything like that. And Connery like sort of does that in his little cute dig at the end of the near the end of the movie where he's like, what book have you written? And he's just
Right.
like, oh, all of your hypotheses were wrong about that guy. It's I just really kind of like that this movie embraces intelligent
Yeah.
people, and it's cool to be smart. It's not just like you're the brains because you're the analyst and you're the brawn because you're the soldier, so to speak. It's like, no, it's the perfect person for these situations, and the only way that this whole endeavor could have worked out the way that it did is because we were dealing with men who were both smart and brave. Not to be all right, I know we do this all the time, especially me, but like not to be like back in the day type of guy, but one thing I
Do it.
find fascinating when I watch these movies is like, Alec Baldwin's 32, and that's like a man, and he's been a man for 15 years. And it's like now it's like Tom Holland's 45 and he looks like he's 6. It's like
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
everybody's like a boy man now, and it's kind of nice just going back to these like 90s movies or 80s movies or what have you, and just being like, these are full-fledged adults.
Yeah. I mean, drama for adults is no longer a thing anymore. It's
And
just
this is a
different.
good one. This is not, it is so much about personal integrity, and it's about trust, and it's about
Yeah.
skepticism and all those things. And the characters who succeed in this film are the ones who are able to trust, who are able to give a little slack, to give, to give a second chance, to give it, to give the benefit of the doubt and all that. And I think it's a wonderful, especially coming as sort of the end of the Cold War type message. I just think it's a perfect movie. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of dudes who take their jobs really seriously and do their jobs really well.
All right, so if you guys could have a job on a submarine, what would you want your submarine job to be?
I'd want to be either one of the cooks or the guy who like then they say like I want it 15 degrees down bubble and then you'd like turn the wheel.
Yeah.
Like I want to be one of those guys.
Yeah, I want to be I don't want to be this guy, but this job always sticks out for me. It's when when like the captain says something and then there's the dude that repeats what the captain said to
The
everybody
XO.
else,
Yeah.
which is like seems like a total waste of time. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, they'd probably stick me with that job.
I want to be
They'll
the
be
guy
like,
who
you
like
talk a lot.
there's the light board that's got the maps and the bearings and stuff, and then there's always some guy who's like, bring that map over here, and he clears the table off and puts a map down and like starts
Yeah.
drawing on it. I want to be that guy. That's my
He's
guy.
got the like the those cool like pencils
Yeah.
and like and like the grafting things and
Yeah,
like
he's got
the,
like a
the
ruler and he's like
rulers and all that
measuring.
stuff. Yeah.
And then there's the close up of his hand as it goes across and like 2 points cross on the axis, and it's like everybody's minds are blown. I want to be that guy.
Yeah, so next week we will be back with Patriot Games and our guest returning champ, Michael Pomero.
Yes.
I wonder if there can be only one. Jack Ryan.
And until next time.